Welcome to the Klasik podcast. I'm Justin, the owner of Klasik Construction, and we are here today with Mike Satenover, also known as Ramen Lord. He is the owner, operator, head chef of Akahoshi Ramen, which is in the Logan Square neighborhood of Chicago. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the show, Mike.
Happy to be here.
Today, you and I, we worked together. You worked with Klasik. Maybe, I think it was back pretty much the entire year of 2023, let's call it.
It was like almost a full year.
Yeah.
We started in January of 2023 planning, and then we wrapped in November.
Sure.
Yeah, 11 months.
Okay, so there was an actual customer journey that was involved with the construction side of the project, right? But
Yes.
For Mike Satenover, before you even think about starting construction, which is what we want to talk about today, we're going to go back and kind of set the foundation for our viewers about what it takes to get to the point where you're actually going to commit mentally, psychologically, emotionally, financially to build out a business. In this case, this is your first brick and mortar, your flagship location. You went from corporate America to then I'm going to step away and I'm going to actually just start my own business.
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about that, build the foundation for our viewers, but then also that'll lead to helping them understand what a customer journey looks like and how that may be a 2 or 3 year period of time.
Yeah, it's longer than 2 or 3 years. I mean, I think that most people, chefs certainly have a dream of opening a restaurant for a really long time. They don't crystallize it until later. For me, I mean, I wanted to be a cook for most of my childhood, and then was gently ostracized out of it by my parents to go do something else, and then gradually re-emerged to be interested in it later on as I was working in corporate America. So rather than telling my whole life story, I guess I would just say I had been working at a desk job, and about even a couple years in, I started having these feelings again of like trying to become a cook, but I slowly recognized that it would be very difficult, and rather it might make more sense to just save my money and open this place or test out some stuff. We started doing pop-ups in Chicago, and once it became so popular and I realized I could do this at scale, that's really when I decided to pursue opening a restaurant. And that was like 6-7 years ago.
So let's think about that. So you're starting to do pop-ups for how long? A year, 2 years?
We do pop-ups. 2018 is the first pop-up I do, and then I would say I start looking for restaurants around 2021. Like COVID happens, and I'm like, ooh, pump the brakes a little bit.
Sure.
But then shortly thereafter, there's some pretty interesting deals that start emerging because of COVID, and so we start looking around that time. So the search for a space where I feel like I'm actually gonna start pressing the gas on this really begins in 2021.
Yeah. So if you're out there and you're thinking about starting a business, or it's maybe years away and it seems kind of infinite and unsure, like there are steps that you start doing to mentally make that graduation.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm just going to decide one day to like close my corporate job or
No.
step away from that. And
No.
like you want to
It
set
took
yourself
a
up for
while,
success.
And I think that patience was really important for us. I mean, I don't know, one of my broker, the president of the broker, found the space for me. I met him when I turned 30. No, I met him when I was like in my mid-20s. But we had lunch when I turned 30, and I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore. I want to open a restaurant. I can't handle this anymore. I need to do it. He was like, you need to wait. It's going to take a lot longer than you think it's supposed to, and you need to be patient. I think that that's like the first piece of advice I'd give anybody who wants to open any sort of brick and mortar business is like, you need to wait. Like, you need to be thoughtful and take your time, because everything trickles down. So like, it took a long time just to find the space. Just to find the space to even do the project in took about 3 years.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I looked at maybe 50 plus spaces. There were not that many, but I had a lot of criteria.
Yeah.
And so admittedly, there is an element of like, as the owner, you need to have an idea of what you want to do and then have the space fit that idea. I've heard of other entrepreneurs find a space and then try and put a concept in. I think that is a fool's errand in a lot of ways, because it means that you're unclear about what you're trying to accomplish.
Especially for a first location. Maybe if you're trying to expand and you're
Sure,
looking
but
into
you already
7,
know you
8,
have
9
your formula,
locations.
right? Like, we don't have a formula. We have to like believe that we have a formula, and then ideally find the place that's going to make that work. So even with that, I still looked at probably 50 different places, you know?
Yeah.
And it took a while.
Meanwhile, you're doing these pop-ups, you're building social media
Yeah.
like gathering. Like, can you maybe tell everybody like how it is that you started to gain traction so that these pop-ups were successful, right?
I don't know.
You don't
like
know.
Everyone wants this advice. Like, how do I get more followers? How do I get more clout? How do I get more interest? And I wish I could tell people I had this master plan, but really I was just doing something I was really passionate about. I loved ramen, so I was making ramen, and I've been eating ramen since 2010 in Japan. I've been cooking it in my house for a decade. I already had kind of a following basically when this thing started through a different venue, which was discussing ramen as a concept.
Got it.
And educating people about it. So it wasn't initially, when I was doing these pop-ups, the first one I did was in New York. It wasn't even meant to be a business. It was just, I just liked ramen, but I got the itch really quickly and thought, oh, I could actually pursue this for real.
Yeah.
And this is popular.
From what I can tell about how you did have like online success and you grew this like really cool, unique following, was that people just were gravitated towards you and gravitated towards the story, and just being out there, and like people are still purchasing from other people. People want to support other people.
Yes.
People don't buy from brands, people buy from people, right?
I think that narrative is an important part of what brand is. Like, if you think about, and a person has a brand.
Sure.
As you as an individual, when you go to market with your business, who you are doesn't often say something about what the business is going to be.
Yeah.
If you're a nice guy, if you're an informative guy, if you're well-spoken, or conversely, if you're jittery and awkward and weird, these things will dictate how people perceive your business, broadly speaking. And so, yes, my brand as who I am is actually a valuable asset to the business. And it's valuable, but sometimes can be difficult. It's valuable because there's only one of me.
For sure.
You can't copy one of you. There's only one of you.
Yeah.
So if people like working with you, they're going to like your business fundamentally. But that being said, it changes. It just, your involvement evolves over time, obviously. So
I think that's a good point. Like, you're still choosing to work with people, and despite maybe a company having a brand, the owner a lot of times is tied to the brand. And when you go out and you seek to choose a restaurant or choose a construction company, having access to those people, sometimes the formative people of that, kind of make that more of a unique experience. And you're like, hey, I'm going to choose.
Yeah, I mean, each brand's different. Like, McDonald's doesn't have this dynamic anymore.
Absolutely.
And people still want to go to McDonald's. That's a different type of audience than the audience that wants to go to the local place, right?
Yep.
Or there's bigger corporations or smaller ones. And as an entrepreneur, you often need to figure out, well, I am smaller. How do I present myself? And that, in my opinion, the strategy should be being your authentic self, thinking about what you stand for, using those as like your kind of pins for what your archetypical brand is supposed to represent, and being a component of that, because fundamentally you are the business when you're small.
Yep.
We're not talking about like Taco Bell. Nobody knows who made Taco Bell anymore. The history of Taco Bell's lineage is gone now.
Yeah.
Right? Taco Bell's brand means something very different than when it probably first opened 50, 60 years ago. But that's okay, the brand has evolved. But for people who want to open a business, you are the brand.
Totally.
Like, undeniably, you have to be the brand.
You could almost dedicate a portion of your life, your professional career, to being that brand and growing that, because it has to take that nurturing for so long until the brand and the company becomes its own thing.
Yes,
And then it's more guidance and leadership, but also staying connected to the employees and to the customer. And that's a whole different conversation about like, how do you then take a successful business and then expand it and still stay connected to
so I
the community?
think until you feel like you have a strong enough brand, I don't even think it's worth opening up a business, because your uphill battle of establishing yourself becomes monumentally more difficult. If you think about one of these projects, opening a brick and mortar store, it is expensive. So you have to invest a lot of money and time into it, and I feel like doing that without having a strong brand is like it's gonna be so much more difficult. Like, that's why you see a lot of chefs, they work at a really amazing restaurants, they build a pedigree, not just of skill, but also of like authenticity. Like, yes, I know what I'm doing. So
And
when
I know
open
who
this
I
restaurant,
am.
I'm gonna be able to convince you that it's worth giving me a shot.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think building a brand before you actually have a brick and mortar is huge, and a lot of people don't invest into that, or don't know how to even start doing that. And that takes a lot of education through research, through reading books, through talking to people.
Yeah, but see, I don't really know if I did any research. All I did was find something that I liked, was good at, and was passionate about, and could talk about, and it builds on its own. I think that people often assess brand in the sense that they think they need to actually pick these things that they're going to focus on. And I think for small business, the number one driver of appeal is authenticity. And I don't mean like, oh, this is an authentic Greek restaurant, or oh, this is an authentic Mexican restaurant. I mean the belief that the person who's doing the business is not just doing it to get a quick buck, but that they are passionate, invested, and dedicated to the thing that they are doing.
It oozes out of them every
authenticity of,
angle
like,
you look at them.
The individual is the business because they want it to be the business, not because they're like going to duck out and cheapen out, right? That is what separates from the people who want to do business with a new person versus people who are like, nah, I'm just going to go to this other big player that I know is tried and true, right?
That integrity, that authenticity, it goes a long way. And like I think about when I was building the Klasik brand, this is 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
Like I actually looked internally, like what are my core values, and what are the core values that I want my customers to have and our employees to have. And like starting with core values is a great place. And you could just list 4 or 5, like what are things that are innate to me and I do every day and I hold strong, right? Tenacity, curiosity, entrepreneurship. Those are some of our core values that I want everybody around us, be it customers, be it subcontractors, be it vendors. I want to make a company that interfaces with these types of people every day, because that's going to make my day-to-day so much happier, more beneficial, and fulfilled.
Yes. And I think with that, you have to recognize that means you're not going to appeal to everybody. And this is a difficult thing for a lot of entrepreneurs, is that they want to get the biggest slice of the pie possible. They want as many people to believe in them, or to, they're opening a restaurant in this case. They want as many people in the door as possible. And it's not to say that volume is bad, but you have to recognize that like the world is full of different segments of people with different beliefs and values, and some of them are going to be different than yours. If you're a high touch service operation, that means you might be more expensive, you might be higher quality, but if price is a really important thing to a person, you're the wrong partner. And similarly, if you're a restaurant that has higher quality ingredients or higher touch service, the person who just wants the fast food is not going to like you.
Yep.
You have to be okay with that as a business owner, that like you're looking for a specific audience of people, fundamentally.
And to not
your brand is going to resonate with some people.
Yeah.
And that's it. But that's okay.
And do something, do less, but do it at a really high quality.
But that's the brand you want.
Exactly.
Some people want to be Walmart. Some people want to be the local person.
The 99 cents.
I think it's hard. If you look contextually in the business landscape, I think it's really hard to be competitive on non-service, high-touch stuff. It's really hard because you're then competing with a giant corporation who has a lot of buying power, who has a lot of manpower, who has a lot of technology, but they don't have the personalization element that is fundamentally what an entrepreneur thrives at the smaller level. Like, you and I can talk to a customer and have a very intimate discussion in a way that a giant business cannot. Someone can't go to Walmart and talk to the CEO and discuss what's going on.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that's not possible.
Yep.
And they won't listen to you either, because why would they? Their books are different, right?
Yep. So let's think about that. So the first time we met, we were actually introduced through your real estate agent, your commercial real estate agent.
My guy, the legendary Mike Dimitri.
That's right. And you had been working with him for 3 or 4 years. And so by the time you found a space, he's like, let me call a great contractor that I know. He gave us a call. I was out to meet with you within about a week or so.
Yeah, very quickly.
And immediately that's the first time we interface, and that brand, that connection, like, can you maybe talk into about what that experience was like, if you remember it? But
of course I remember. The most jarring experience of my life, having to open a restaurant. So everything is very precise in my mind about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So we meet on site, and you pretty much tell me, hey, here's where I'm at, here's where I want to be.
Yeah.
How can you help me, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I've just signed the lease on this space. Or no, I hadn't even signed the lease, because we had met before I signed the lease.
Yes.
We were scoping out spaces, and this space looked pretty immaculate. I was like, this place is clean, it looks nice, looks well put together. I have some vision about how I would change it. But I just didn't know, like, is there some weird hidden thing I'm gonna get screwed on?
Yep.
Which of course there always is, but you can only look so much. So yeah, I was like, let me get a GC in here to look, and I don't know anything about finding a GC at the time.
Yep.
Like, I am not a restaurateur. I have not found anybody. And so this is a classic example, just basically word of mouth, where we have a mutual friend, that mutual friend suggests you are super responsive, you show up like less than a week later. I think even you were willing to do it like next day, but we also needed the architect there too.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
we both show up together, and I could just tell him, you're like, oh, I'm gonna get along with Justin, there's no problem. And again, because you are the business in a lot of ways, that is an important criteria. Like, do I find you personable? Do I find like your approach to this engaging and reassuring? Because I'm about to drop an insane amount of money on a project.
Yeah.
I need to feel like it's not going to go crappily.
Does
right?
this person love what they do, or are they just phony?
It's not even about love what they do. It's just like, do I feel like, again, everybody's going to have a different assessment criteria of what is going to make a partnership or a working relationship successful. I think for me, that was, I'm scared because I've never done this before and I don't know what I'm doing. So I need somebody who looks like they know what their shit is. They need to know things.
Yep.
They need to not be a dick.
Sure.
Which
It's
we've
core
met many
value.
a GC or person who is. So it's like, are they approachable? Do they seem like they're going to be understanding and reassuring, knowing that I'm kind of losing my mind at all points in the process?
Yep.
And do they seem organized enough that they're going to be able to handle what is admittedly a complex project? Like building a restaurant, even in our case, which was a second gen space, which had a lot of the foundations done.
Yep.
We still had to do a lot of really weird stuff to the space to make it work. We had to do all the plumbing over, we had to do a lot of stuff over. So thinking that this person is going to be able to be on top of it, push it forward and get it done correctly the first time and not waste my time, not burn a bunch of budget.
Yeah.
It's like you could tell very quickly that that's what it was going to be, and so I was like, all right, cool, we're ready to go.
And there might be there's probably multiple components, but another component is like you're meeting somebody, like in this case, you're meeting me in Klasik. You're like, I need to be able to work with them for 6 or 12 months. This is not just like a one single transaction. We're kind of done here.
Yes.
This is, there's a relationship to be had there, and you got to make sure that it's a little bit of courting. That's why it takes sometimes multiple touch points, multiple visits, in person, be it whatever, just to start building that trust. Because once we have that trust together, now like you're the one with the vision, you're the superhero here. We need to now take your thought, work with the architects and the designer, take their instructions, and we need to make it happen. So we have to own our piece of the project, but it's all on behalf of Mike and his vision.
Yes.
And so, like, getting to that point where you're like, I'm now ready to move forward with this company, with this person. Once you get to that point, be it maybe either a couple weeks or a couple months, once you're mentally there, then how does that change? How does the relationship change? How does the trust change? How does the atmosphere and how's the confidence?
I mean, for me, it was weird because this is such a different thing for me than what I was doing in the past. So everything was very novel and very new. The whole process, from having a sit down with the designer and just talking about what they were planning and then you reacting to it, to all the weird hiccups that happened along the way with the architecture and recognizing new things we had to do on the fly, and then
certain code issues that kind of come up,
yeah,
or
like all this
inspectors
stuff
want
is
certain things.
fundamentally new to me. So I didn't really feel like at ease, quote unquote, until about halfway through actual construction.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
Like I remember very early on in the process, we finally have drawings. It's taken way too long. Like engineering takes double the amount of time that we're quoted on. Of course, everything takes longer than you expect, but so we haven't even gotten drawings until like late May, mid-June, and we're finally ready to go. And you're like, I'm just gonna do demo right now. I'm like, what? What's happening?
Yeah.
And I remember walking into the restaurant one night, like as demo had just started, and the thing is absolutely destroyed. Everything is a hot mess.
Did I just make a big mistake?
Part of me is like, what the fuck have I just agreed to? But sure enough, like you just have to trust the process, and I had not trusted the process because I'd never done the process before. So some of this is you being like, yeah, it's gonna look crazy in there. Like it's gonna be wild. But we're gonna get all cleaned up. It's all gonna be fine. I'm on top of it. And knowing that like, okay, part of the process is you have to kind of break everything down. It is gonna be a little insane before identifying all of the things that are gonna get built out. And slowly over the next then 3 to 4 months, things started to look more normal, and you could kind of start seeing how the plans were taking shape. And that's, I feel like, when I was like, okay, everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
It's like, it looks crazy right now, but now it's starting to look a little bit like you know, we have this bar area that you guys installed. That was like, once the foundations of that got put in, I was like, okay, I can kind of see like where this is going right now.
People are going to be eating here. This is going to be
Eating
clad
here,
with
this is,
stone.
like, put
It's going to
in.
have a
Yeah,
wood
it's
countertop.
I can kind of like, it's hard to visualize, but I can actually see this thing now. It's physical.
I think that's pretty common with every single customer we have is
They freak
the,
out.
the anxiety like hits like kind of a high when the framing is there and like we call it the rough MEPs, but the rough construction is going on where nothing is closed up, no drywall's on the wall, and you're just like, what is this going to look like? But as soon as drywall goes on the wall, primer goes on, and like even like some painting and flooring starts happening, then you're like, they
Just
have
like
this
the
like sense of
stone, you
relief
guys
that
put,
just
like, the
comes through.
stone. I don't know. It wasn't the stone. It was like, what was it before you put the actual finished?
So Durock.
Durock.
We do like a plywood
I was
Durock.
like, I see what this is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I remember you and I had a conversation actually. I was like, because we were just looking at the frame. The frame itself is kind of weak, right? It's kind of wobbly. And I was like, are you sure this is enough? And you're like, man, we're about to put Durock on this thing. Like, you could stand on this thing when we're done. Sure enough, when the Durock went on, it was like rock solid. It was, for lack of
Stiff as a board.
rock solid.
Rock solid.
Yeah, it was impossible to move this thing. That feeling of like, oh yeah, this is like in place. This is like correct. I think is also part of the feeling as you're going through the process of like understanding that.
Yeah.
And you know, the reality is, I think for most people who start a business, they're not going to have experiences before. It's going to be, you're just going to have to accept that you just do not know what is going on.
Yeah. And I think for us in our industry, when we see that sense of like anxiety and that sense of relief, like happens for our customer as we get closer to finishing, that's when we get like this new sense of like adrenaline again, because it's like they're now in a good place. They now appreciate and see what we do, and they trust that this is going to be done to their high level of vision. And then that last like couple months is really enjoyable. Sometimes even that last couple weeks is really enjoyable because now you're like, oh, I've got to now start getting equipment in here. I got to start planning the menu. I got to start actually getting staff ready to be working here. And so you're really busy doing a lot of things while we're busy finishing the project for you. So it's a dividing
like
conquer.
a race to figure everything out at the same time, because you have to figure out all the pieces. The equipment one for restaurants is like the obvious one, where it's like we need to get all of this stuff in right at the perfect time. Because if I do it too late, it's going to be really annoying. If I do it too early,
it could get damaged or moved around,
or something like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting part that I kind of blocked out of my mind, because I remember, you spent, we didn't buy that much equipment, but we still had like $40,000-$50,000 and stuff. Imagine the fear of like, well, this might get broken.
Not including
or not being able to get it into the restaurant because of the way that it's been built, and figuring out the right timing and place for all that stuff.
We actually had to make a last minute change to widen the access area to the kitchen by a couple inches because of like an equipment constraint. Or I think it was at the host stand to the bar. We had to like widen that by like 2 inches for an operational kind of decisions.
That was a pass. We weren't even supposed to have that open. The initial plan was that the entire bar would wrap into the host stand, but then that became kind of weird from a flow perspective. Like, how could you get in and out of the kitchen then?
Yeah.
You'd have to walk all the way around, and we had this beverage area in the corner that was also then blocked off, so beverages would have to sweep around through the entire kitchen to get out. So we made a lot of changes as we were progressing. I think that, by the time we actually hit construction, we had a pretty good idea of what we were doing. The only thing I think that came up, there was one thing that I remember very vividly, and that was that we needed power to the central island, and we hadn't thought about how we were going to do that. And we had already finished plumbing and all the groundwork and tile before we were like, how are we going to do this? So we had to like do some kind of funky thing at the last second.
But it turned out looking awesome.
It looks great.
You still keep the open kitchen plan.
It looks great. And I think that that's the other thing, is like, the other piece of advice I would give anybody who's opening this business is like, you are not going to know everything. Even the professionals, there's going to be some weird things that happen. Like the plumbing, I think we redid a lot of plumbing.
Yeah.
Didn't totally realize that the level of plumbing redoing that was going to be necessary, but you just have to accept that like that's going to be found out, and you lean into your professionals to tell you and like believe them, because if you're hiring a good GC, they're not going to like screw you over because it's going to look bad for them. Again, a smaller person's reputation means a lot more than like some giant company that, whatever. So interestingly enough, like we only had that knee wall that we built, right? The kind of in the open kitchen. That was just one of those things. Like you just have to accept it. Like you're not going to be able to recognize everything, but
Yep.
if you have a good partner, they're going to be able to make suggestions and adapt quickly, and then figure out a solution that makes sense for everybody.
And every project is different, and we pride ourselves on being just high level problem solvers, because a lot of
Yes.
times we have to be reaction. We could be as proactive as we want to be, scheduling and getting materials ordered and trying to lay out the perfect project.
Yeah.
But there's no such thing. And
Yeah.
so sometimes you have to make mistakes with grace. Sometimes you have to learn as you go, and that's every project. So
Yeah.
how well do you learn, and how well do you problem solve and make quick decisions quickly?
Yeah.
That also that dictates how good of a general contractor you might be. Is
Yeah.
like we have a creative solution we need to find here, and it needs to look aesthetically pleasing and on brand for
Yeah.
the company. And then talking through the couple options with you, possibly with the designer, be like, hey, here's something we've encountered. We need a solution by Tuesday because this is now
Yeah.
interrupting the schedule if we don't get this figured out.
Yeah.
And so getting the heads together, pointing at the issue and be like, let's problem solve. And then doing that brilliantly, if you have good relations with your design team and with your contractor, those things that could be not detrimental, but they could be problematic for a project, seem to kind of get
Yeah, I
softened
mean, I would
over.
say that the delays were not in construction.
Yeah.
The delays were in getting up to construction. It's just like getting the permits and getting the drawings and everything else. But once we had a general sense of what we needed to do, I think you guys did a good job of that, even for the things you needed to react to, like the plumbing, some of the HVAC changes that kind of came in the last second, some of the knee wall, these like little things that kind of emerged. We got them done still on time.
Yep.
We were pretty much ready to go. I think that.
And I think we were like within 3% of budget. Like we were not
Yeah,
far off.
budget was fine. I mean, we were a little over.
I mean, but I think it was 3 or 4%. Like, which from a percent, if we're 5% or less under budget, that's still in our world, in our industry,
I would
very
not say
successful.
that- I would not say that the budgetary components that emerged were predominantly from construction. There were changes to the budget. It was mostly from like the drawings and the way that the designs kind of came in. And I think that's the other thing too, is like the reality is like a budget's just a budget.
Yep.
And you're gonna have to make some choices as an entrepreneur on what you do and don't want. And hopefully your GC is able to guide you through that and be like, here are your options in terms of what you can do within this. But also we did this very early on. Like when we met on site, part of that was me being like, what do you think, a vague, like super vague, what do you think this idea is gonna cost?
Yeah.
And you pitched a number, and you were actually pretty close, like in
Yeah.
terms of the construction costs. Like I think you might have been like, it was pretty much bang on actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
Within probably within 10%.
Yeah.
And that's just comes from knowledge and experience. But also we did, because we started talking so early on in the process, and you were like, you're our contractor. And to make that decision, both for me as the contractor and for you as the owner, it's like now we can start working together and dancing early on, and I can help protect you, because we talked about budget, I think 3 times before we actually got the final construction costs. Like from from February through May, we had done 3 different renditions.
Yeah, and we had to make choices in terms of like, well, I want this, I don't want this.
Yeah.
This is important, this is less important, we can scrap it. Like, yeah.
And we talked about building in, even mentally, emotionally, a 5% contingency. Just like, I know that this is probably going to need some changings along the way. So now you've got some reserve, or at least mentally, you're like, if I need to dip into an extra $15,000, $20,000, like I know where that's coming from, but we don't necessarily know that may be needed, but you've planned for it already.
But but I would say to a new business owner that you should expect it. You should expect it.
Yep.
If you want it to hold the number here, it's gonna get pushed, because there's gonna be stuff you just don't expect, and it's gonna cost money to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be crazy, but like, I needed power. I need electricity. So like, some stuff is mandatory, and that you just have to be ready for that possibility. It's not always true, but like, you know, if I'm looking at myself now versus who I was 3 years ago, I would say that's like the biggest piece of advice that I would give myself is be accepting of the reality that things don't always go according to plan. You want to plan it because you feel very vulnerable as an entrepreneur, where you're like dumping basically your life savings or whatever you can into this project.
Yep.
And even though your team might feel very in control and very capable, you fundamentally are not, because you're handing it off to somebody to do it. You're not, I wasn't there like doing electric work.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not an electrician. It doesn't make sense for me to do that. So you have to relinquish a little bit of control, and part of that means that you have to recognize that you got to roll with the punches a little bit as things happen. Like, it's going to make you feel more comfortable if you're okay to be like, all right, they got it though. They're going to figure it out. And if you feel that way, it's going to go well.
I remember like working with you, you'd come in like every week, we'd have our on-site weekly meetings, and you'd be like, you'd ask some question like, this might be stupid. I'd be like, it's not stupid if you're asking it because you don't know.
Yeah.
And I would kind of walk you through it, and they'd be like, all right, you know what you're doing. And like, I would see you like close your eyes, you'd be like, you know what you're doing. Okay, cool, that's good. And like every week you had that that we had that kind of reassurance. And you like just continuing that trust and you being able to like walk away from me as the person in charge of construction. I was like, he trusts me, and so I am obligated to continue doing what I'm doing at a high level because there's that trust, and I cannot break that whatsoever.
That is the fundamental brand promise that you as a general contractor have to provide, which is like, I do know what I'm doing, and I'm going to get it done correctly, on time, within budget, all of these promises I make to you. That is the goal of any good business transaction. That's true of an entrepreneur as well. It's like, you have a business that you're trying to fulfill. When I make somebody a bowl of food, it better deliver on all the things they hope it wants to be. They have expectations. We need to meet or exceed those expectations every time.
Absolutely. And if you haven't had a bowl of ramen, Akahoshi Ramen, highly recommend.
Plug,
it is
please plug my business.
Killer. I mean, you've been brought up for many awards. I don't know exactly how many awards you've won, and like just your trajectory ever since opening. It was what you were hoping for and what you anticipated, but do you maybe want to share a little bit of like way larger?
Way larger. I think that, I mean, if you look at my P&L versus what my pro forma was, we're like 20% higher than
That's incredible.
Yeah, but now we're capped. Like, there's not a lot of growth opportunity, but that's fine. Like, I didn't open this business to be like, let me open 3 more. Let me like grow.
Yeah.
This is more of a lifestyle business where I have a healthy margin. The business is allowing me to do things that I want to do. Everybody gets paid. Everybody's happy.
You love your employees. You love your customers.
I love my customers. I love my food. Like everything is, the system itself is providing for a lot of things that are beneficial to me. It doesn't need to grow. And I think that that's an important thing for some entrepreneurs to understand. Is like, you don't have to make a business with the goal of 10xing it, 500xing it. If you want it to be a business that is sustainable for you and it gives you a lifestyle that you like, it doesn't need to be this huge monstrous thing. If you want it to be that way, please. But for me, I don't have this grand vision of like opening 10 Akahoshi Ramen. It's like, if I open another restaurant, one, I'd obviously use Klasik Construction, wink, wink, nudge, shout out.
Looking forward to
you know
it.
what I'm saying? But the thing would be, I would really focus on like, why do I want to do this? Not just because, expansion's good, money's good. And it's okay as a business owner to say, I'm at the right size for myself. And to me right now, the restaurant's at the right size. Like, I don't really need it to grow. As long as if we're maintaining this level, growing with inflation basically to account for whatever inflation's happening, I think that we're in a good spot. Like, we were way more popular than I thought we were gonna be though. So that's been very nice as well.
I think it's nice also because you work so hard for, call it 7 or 8 years. If you started this concept in 2018 and doing pop-ups, and now it's 2025, so that's 7 years of mental commitment to just be like, I'm in a good place right now. I'm gonna just let this ride for a year or two so I can recharge the batteries. I could think about what maybe on the horizon for me next, and then just start tactically planning your next step.
Yeah, like you don't need to
always be in chaos.
It can be its thing.
Exactly.
It can kind of settle and be nice and be fun and enjoyable. It doesn't need to be like, I'm in my grind mode and I better like push this thing as hard and as deeply as I can.
I think to find fulfillment and rest in that period of fulfillment, knowing that future change is going to happen, and it could be good, it could be bad, but just to like find happiness in that for as long as possible, I think that's really huge, and a lot of people kind of miss that. So to be present enough as a business owner, despite having so many unknowns in your day-to-day life, when things are good, just really appreciate when things are good. So you're open for business. You now have lines out the door for months, even to this day, depending on the time of the year.
Summer's a little slower for a ramen shop. We're like the opposite of an ice cream store.
That's a good point.
Like people don't really want hot soup in July, but even then we've still been busy. Like, just this Saturday, we still had like 160 guests coming in 4 hours. That's almost 4 full turns.
Yeah.
In 4 hours, that's pretty good. Like I wouldn't complain about that day at all.
Yeah.
So, I think we're still popular. I think people still want to come visit us and see what we have to do. And
I think for business owners to be considered, like, is there seasonality to my business? And most businesses are going to say yes. Like, no matter what you do,
unquestionably,
right? There's always going to be a high season. There's always going to be a low season. That low season might be a month. It might be 4 months. That high season might be a month. It might be 4 months. But you're structured, and your plan accommodates for all of that.
It wasn't intentional though. Like, I definitely initially, I think you have to be open to pivoting and thinking about your business in terms of things that you don't expect happening. So, up until the point of building, there's that's happening too. But then when you open, you don't really know what's going to happen either. You have to be flexible to the changes that are going to happen and the things that you don't anticipate in your business. For whatever reason, in my brain, when I opened this, I thought we would not have seasonality. I think that that's probably a common misconception of most restaurants. We were a little slower in the summer the first year. We're still a little slower in the summer the second year, but you kind of have to be okay with that. But, you make changes based on that. We just know that we're going to be busier in the winter. We're a winter food. It's hot soup. It's comforting. It's rich. So just be ready for that. Whether it's your staffing changes, or you change the menu, or you reduce your food cost, or you're just a little tighter on your labor costs, whatever various levers you have to pull, you should be ready for that.
And to be financially savvy and to looking at your numbers and not just like head in the sand.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at your numbers.
Absolutely.
I don't know how any restaurant owner doesn't look at the numbers. I've heard some really crazy horror stories of people who get a P&L once a year. I'm like, how do you know what's going on? Like, how do you have any? I barely know. I look at it once a month.
Yes,
I look at it regularly, but I get a final report every month.
Yep.
And I still feel like I don't know what's going on. Like, I would want it way more frequently if I was able to. Like, I'm a little bit of a control freak, so that's part of it. But as a business owner, you have to. It does. Again, I'm not as concerned with maximizing profit as many other entrepreneurs probably would be. I think a lot of chefs are like this, where some of it is a lifestyle thing. So for them, as long as the business is operable and paying its debts and making things work, it's fine. I do want good margin because I have a lot of money that I dumped into this thing, and it's nice to get it back. But I'm okay with this as long as the business is not hemorrhaging cash every single month, which it never has, so I'm in a good place. But you still need to know. You need to know. You need to know, did I lose money last month? Did I lose money doing this silly thing that I wanted to do? Was that a good idea? You need to know.
I've heard stories about businesses that are 20 million a year, 100 million a year, $1 billion a year, that because ownership and leadership put their head in the sand for 90 days or 180 days when it came to financials, then they got them in such a hole that they could not climb out of. So if you do go away from that, or the business transitions to new leadership.
I think it would be tough for us. But yes, I think if a really seasonal business just ran and wasn't getting the income coming in that off season, but was running like they were supposed to, you could get yourself into a big trouble really quickly. I spend a lot of money. Half of all the money that comes in the restaurant goes payroll. So if your revenue drops 25-30% in off season, but you're still paying that same payroll, that's a lot of debt.
It's all your margin.
All your, not even your margin. Restaurant margin is not as good as that margin. Restaurant margin is my margin is good, but if your margin is above 10%, you're crushing it in a restaurant. If you're in double-digit margin, you're crushing it in a restaurant. So if you have an if you lost 20% of your revenue, you're basically losing money. With the same staffing model. So you have to pay attention. In the summer, we slow down a little bit. So for us, I don't really want to take people's jobs away. So we figure out other things. Maybe we're not going to lean into such expensive ingredients. Maybe we're going to, really be tight on COGS. And so we're really making sure that we're priced out accurately. We're not wasting any product. We're not, nothing is going to waste and get disposed of. We're selling everything. Those choices and that control in the business, for a restaurant at least, is how it works. But that's how we deal with the seasonality. But other people would do different. If you have a patio in your restaurant, you are just not having people work during the winter. You're saving on the wages, but you have to be on it. You have to be on it for sure. Because if I lost 25 grand a month or something, suddenly I've got like a huge bill that I don't know what to do with.
And now you're back at square one, which
like,
we
what
were
happened?
2 years ago when you
Yeah.
opened the door, right? And now it's like,
what happened?
yeah,
and
then you
there's
climb out of that.
you don't get to, so it's better to stay on top of it, for sure, undeniable.
It's a great lesson. I want to pivot, and I know you and I both have a lot of common when it comes to travel and how that has impacted you as a person and you as a business owner. Like, let's think back to you traveling to Japan. You've been to Japan how many times? Do you even know?
I don't even know the number.
Okay, so more than a
I
dozen.
lived there for a year, so it's like, what does that count as?
Sure,
Is that
for
one
sure.
trip? I guess one giant, super long trip.
If you've lived somewhere, then you understand it. It's not even about travel at that
Yeah,
point in time.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
you were part of the culture for X amount of time. So it's
Well,
just a part of who you are.
Yeah, I would say it is a large part of my identity that I was a little bit of a weeb who loved Japan for a really long time. I still love Japan, but my relationship has become more nuanced with it as I've gotten older.
Okay. Yeah, interesting.
Well, it's like travel also, I think, helps you identify who you are as a person, right? Like, and obviously, whether I like to admit it or not, I'm not Japanese. I'm a white guy who came from Chicago.
Yeah.
And so recognizing my relationship to Japan in that way has helped me actually in terms of my craft, specifically because it's helped me identify like what is my place and where is my place in this craft in terms of whether I'm pushing it forward, who I give credit to, who inspires me, what things I take ideas from and push myself forward in, who do I, who informs me and educates me, and also recognizing like where I have more learning to do, being more thoughtful about that dynamic fundamentally is part of like why going to Japan was so important, why going to Japan regularly is important. Although I'll be honest, I have not been since opening the restaurant.
Yep.
It can be a little difficult to get away from the restaurant. It can be a little challenging.
So what does your day-to-day look like as the owner and operator of Akahoshi Ramen?
Now that the business has definitely settled a little bit, for the first year, I just did not understand things like how many people we needed, how busy we were going to be. So figuring out like the patterns, the ebbs and flows of the restaurant was the first year of just like understanding what is this thing? It's going to start growing and changing in a way that's not totally in the owner's control. How do my staff impact the culture of the business? How do my staff like to behave? Who are good staff? Who are staff that maybe aren't a good fit for the place? What dishes work? What dishes don't work? Everything is kind of like nebulous until you start doing it. It's like you come up with a pro forma and you think this is how it's going to be, and it's all just guesswork until the thing actually starts running. So the first year is just figuring that out. Year two is where things kind of settle, and I can kind of see like, oh, I can kind of do this, I can do less of this. And for me, I thought my role, first and foremost, is about dish development and making sure that the dishes are excellent. So I am always tasting, I am always coming up with all the new dishes, and I'm always changing the dishes as necessary to improve them.
So that's still one of your main.
Yeah, but that's what I always wanted.
For sure, and that's why you did this to begin with.
I'm a chef,
Right.
but I'm not always producing everything. I think there's a little bit of a misconception that an executive chef is like, on the line, they cooked everything for you that day. And it's just not possible. We serve 160 people a day. It would be impossible for me to make everything.
Did you work in a kitchen before opening Akahoshi?
For a year and a half in high school, I was like an unpaid stage at this Italian restaurant that's since closed. And I mean, I learned that I did not like kitchen toxic environments very much during that. So like, the thing I like to brag a lot about with my staff is that we've only lost like a handful of staff since we opened. We have incredibly low turnover. I think 85% of our staff have been with us since day one.
Plus, that's such a unique opportunity for you guys. Is like you personally, this is a brand new business. It's a brand new concept, and you're not bringing in any bad baggage from any bad experiences you've had.
Trauma that I'm like, I have to run it this way because it's the way
you're making this how you want it as you go.
Yeah.
And so it's a very kind of like almost a new technology, but it's in the restaurant world, and that's an awesome opportunity because you're really defining a brand new path, and you're creating not only dishes but your culture based on what's in your head and nothing else.
Well, it is my restaurant, so I get to do that. And I think that that's a lot of responsibility, but it also gives you, I think this is the thing that's been the most difficult for me coming from a corporate background, which is like, When you work in an office or you work in a giant company, you always have some other person that you can scapegoat out or you can go up to and ask or decide. Even if you're the CEO, you have shareholders or other owners of the company that are going to be these people that you have to respond to, basically. But when you're an entrepreneur or a sole owner of a business like I am, you are not responding to anybody. You are the decider, full stop. There's no one that you can like shoot that decision off to necessarily. You still have to be the decider.
Which is awesome and scary at the same time.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's like everything feels like it has a lot more weight.
Yeah.
Has a lot more intensity to the decision. Yeah. And you have to get comfortable with that. So it's great because it allows you to do, but there's a benefit to that, which is that you get to do what you want. You decide.
Yeah.
If I don't want to have to work 70 hours, I can staff the thing so that I don't have to. There's trade-offs. You know, your margin gets hit. Maybe you have less control on stuff. And so you as an individual get to make a choice about what you want your role in your business to be. And it's a very strange feeling for someone who comes from corporate where that was never the case.
You're told, hey, here's your role, here's your desk,
them a resume,
here's your
and
software.
Yeah, literally. You do this the way we want you to do it, and
Yep.
that's it.
Yep.
Now it's I figure out all of that architecture and all that framework. And so year 2 has really been about what is that role. You know, I think a lot of chefs think they're just gonna be cooking every day. And for me, I just could tell that one, my body couldn't handle it. My body could not handle it. And 2, I was more interested in the creative and the exploration than I was in just the process of doing the dish over and over again.
So you found some strengths of yourself and also weaknesses over the couple years, and now you're like, I want to work in the same grain with my
I want my role to
strengths.
be that way as opposed to this way. But I can do that because I'm the owner, so I get to decide.
Yep.
Right? And
But then you can still pepper in assistance wherever it might be needed,
of
or
course.
wherever there's a hole or a gap
Trust
that
me,
needs to be
you'll
filled.
see in that kitchen. I'm in that kitchen every single day we're open.
Yep.
And I am helping out in any way that needs to be done. You know, when you own a business, you have more skin in the game than anyone else. So you have to be ready to do basically anything.
Yep.
And not even just cook. Like, trust me, I've fixed the toilet many a time.
Totally.
Like,
Yeah.
but that's part of the game. That's part of the game of owning a business. It's the fun part.
It is, and it is fun, and it's fun to make sure that you kind of stay connected to all components of your business, and to like get exposure and to like see what that is, because there's a lot of times there's even opportunities for new and improved ways or things having stepped away for 6 months or 12 months from something, then you kind of get back into it for a little bit, and you're like, oh wait, I now think differently about this.
It happens a lot. Like, you know, we'll have a process or a way that we've done something that maybe I came up with this and we were cooking it this way for a while, and then, you know, I've handed it off to the prep team or the line cooks have been doing it for a while, and I just kind of step in for a sec and like reassess how I think about it, and we change it because we think it can be better this way. And we have a very firm one. You know, we talk about brand pillars very early on in this conversation. One of ours is like this continuous improvement mindset. We don't really want to stay steady and just like hold the line. We always want to be thinking about, okay, this is where it is. What's going to be the next thing we can do to get it to just incrementally better? It doesn't even need to. I like to brag, I guess, about it when they come in, but I'm not even doing it for anyone except my feeling that the quality and skills of our team is growing, right? That we collectively, I think that there's something very valuable in my brand, in my mind, about having a mindset around continuous improvement. I think it makes people feel like they're not just going to stagnate and do the same thing over and over again. I think also it means that we're always trying to lead with the best that we can, right? As opposed to like, it's good enough, right? I don't think that in my business, at least, having good enough is very good. We need to be like, can we make it better? Can we do this differently?
We have a component at Klasik where every single employee is invested in some additional education, some continued learning, and that could be either business coaching, or it could be podcast listening or book reading or whatever it is. Whatever aligns with that employee, I want to work with the grain for that employee's sake. It's like, what do you like doing? How do you take in information the best? And then it's like, let's help you find ways of continue to educate yourself in our industry, and also perimeter industries too, that are going to make you better and better and better every year, because you just rinsing and repeating doing the same thing over and over every day. That's fine for fulfilling your role, but that's not fine for expanding how you can be a better member of our team and our culture. And so if leadership is invested and obsessed with learning, and then enhance or trying to encourage that amongst the other employees of the culture of the business, then everybody has a curiosity that's innate to them. And we talked about travel a little bit ago. When I was in Japan, I went to Japan for the first time over New Year's, and I am always looking at construction. I'm always looking at cranes. I'm always looking at concrete trucks, at anything construction. I'm like a little kid. My curiosity is through the roof, and it comes from a background of architecture, but it comes from a background of an entrepreneur. It comes from the background of a general contractor. I saw dump trucks that were showing up to a site on a street, a side street. They would lay down a tarp on the street, and the demo crew would then be demoing stuff into the dump truck. And anything that fell off the truck would just go on the tarp, so that when the truck drove away, they could then fold up the tarp, and then dump that into the truck, and it would be like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
And you're just like, that's incredible. That doesn't happen in the U.S. Not whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they spray their concrete trucks down every day. Their concrete trucks look brand spanking new.
Yeah.
And they might be 10, 15 years old. They take so much pride in the cleanliness of the cleanliness of their community.
Yes, definitely a big cornerstone of the culture over there.
Yeah, and then you can bring that back. You're like, I can implement these couple things. So now we are constantly having our production team look at the cleanliness of a site on a daily basis. We've got weekly cleaning that happens every Friday afternoon. There's like a cleaning crew that comes into every site for 2 or 3 hours, make sure everything is as clean as possible.
Yeah.
So for that weekend and the next week. And then you're also holding your subs and whoever's on site accountable. You're like, why is that Gatorade bottle over there? Like, why is that empty Wendy's wrapper there?
I mean, that's that stuff that gets you from good to great.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not just like, you're still getting the job done regardless of the cleanliness, fundamentally.
Yeah.
But when you think about all that ancillary stuff, that is what establishes you as not just good. Oh, he's a good GC, he got things done on time, it's on budget.
Yeah.
Those are the requirements to be a good GC.
Right.
The great stuff is all the ancillary stuff on top of doing the thing to the best of your ability.
And
same with food. It's like, if we make a dish, it tastes good and it looks nice, but is it presented correctly? Is it the right temperature?
Is that bowl clean?
Did the server know what they were talking about when they handed it to you? Are they like giving you the right space?
Are they looking at you in the eyes?
Fundamentally, your
when they
restaurant,
converse
so
with you?
the service that we provide is we make you food. And hopefully you like the food.
Right.
That's like the bare minimum. But all the ancillary stuff, like, was it comfortable in the room? Did the servers check in on you correctly? Did the food come out in a timely manner? Did you feel comfortable? Like,
Was the lighting level perfect?
was the lighting right? Like,
Yeah.
is the music okay? Like, all these little extra touches that you have throughout the experience are what are going to drive it. It's not just going to be, is the food good? For most people. Everybody is different. There are segments of the population. Some people want a GC that they don't care about that shit. They don't care at all about how clean it is.
They're like, why am I paying a couple extra $1,000 for you to clean
But
the
a
job
lot of
site?
people, I think particularly the people who want it done the way that you envision it, are going to respect that and they're going to want that.
Well, and then it's an extension, because then you see the people that we're hiring. We hire subcontractors, right?
Yeah.
So your electrician, your framers, because you're demanding that level of cleanliness from them, then they know when they're on your site, like, oh, this is a professional job.
Yeah.
They're going to then be doing work at a higher level. And if they're not going to be coming back as subcontractors on other projects. Like, that is our way of lifting everybody up. And it's like, you don't have to be perfect, but like, listen to the vision and the concept that we have for for ourselves and what we want for our job sites. And if you can meet that, you can grow with us, then you can continue to grow with us.
Yeah.
Like, we've had subs that have been with us for 7 to 10 years.
Oh,
Like,
really?
I've had painters that have been with us for 12 or 13 years. So like, people stick around, and especially when you can almost like compliment each other when people aren't on site, and then the subs are telling other subs, like, you gotta take care of that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want, like, I want it for the benefit of you,
Yeah.
but also I don't want anybody maybe even think it was me. So
Right.
I think, like, it's just really cool that's like, when you do have that really high level of integrity, to see how it trickles down to other people in a positive way. And you may come across like an asshole every once in a while,
Yeah.
but the respect is there.
Yeah.
All right, lastly, before we wrap up, I know we spent a lot of time talking about tons of stuff, and like, a lot of this content is great, and hopefully people are curious about certain things, or they may have questions or follow-up. Like, how would they get a hold of you? Is it through Instagram? Like,
Yeah, I think that you can just reach out to me on Instagram, or also just, we have like a email for the restaurant, just info@akahoshiramen.com. That's just my email.
Yeah.
I know it sounds more official, but it's just my email. So you can just email me.
And would you find if somebody is like about to open a restaurant?
Literally anytime. I'm happy to help people out about this whenever. I mean, obviously I do not have all the free time in the world. Still a busy guy running a restaurant, but I learned a lot doing this over the last year, and I always think it's important to kind of pay it forward.
Yep.
I definitely talked to a lot of people in order to get here. I leaned in not just on my GC, and the professionals who helped with the build out, but chefs and owners and other people who went through this as well. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel on this stuff. It's helpful to get perspective from as many people as possible.
And sometimes it's good to teach what you know, because then you relearn while you're teaching.
True.
Which is incredible. And that's a cool new offset that, especially in the last year or two, is as I'm trying to find opportunities, just like what we're doing right now, is to have conversations with other business owners, and then also start teaching what I know to other people in my industry, be it plumbers, electricians, other smaller remodeling GCs, what I know, because I can help them grow.
Yeah.
And I've got such a confident platform myself where I know where we're going, and it's going to be incredible. So somebody's going to have to kind of fill the gap of where we've come from.
Yeah.
So it's important for you to look down on the ladder every time you take a step or two, just to remind yourself how high you're getting, and stay grounded.
For sure.
So this has been awesome, Mike. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Of course.
Hopefully we do a couple more of these in the future. We'll check in.
Happy to chat whenever. Good to see ya.
Thanks, Mike.